Before there were prisons as we know them, before there were life sentences, solitary confinement, or rehabilitation programs, there was Rome. And Rome had a simple philosophy when it came to its worst criminals. Make the death a message. Today, we are going inside the Roman justice system to reveal exactly how the empire punished those it deemed beyond saving. Some of what you are about to hear will disturb you. All of it actually happened. To understand Roman execution, you have to understand Roman law. The Romans were among the first civilizations to develop a formal legal code, the 12 Tables, dating all the way back to around 450 BC. But Roman justice was never really about rehabilitation. It was about order, hierarchy, and above all, deterrence. The Romans had a punishment called damnatio ad bestias, condemned to the beasts. They had crucifixion, the Tarpeian rock, the sack, and the arena. Each method was not chosen randomly. Each one carried a specific message to the public, to potential criminals, and to Rome's enemies watching from afar. Who got executed in Rome? Murderers, traitors, slaves who rebelled, enemies of the state, deserters, and those convicted of what Rome called per duellio, high treason. The punishment always fit the crime, at least in Roman eyes. So let us go through them, one by one. We begin at the oldest and most dramatic of all Roman execution sites, the Tarpeian Rock. Located on the southwestern corner of the Capitoline Hill, the Sacred Heart of Rome, this was a sheer cliff face, roughly 25 meters high, overlooking the Forum below. This was not just an execution ground. This was sacred space, and that was the point. Traitors, murderers, those found guilty of perjury, they were all brought here. No ceremony, no long procession. The condemned were simply thrown off. The fall killed most instantly, but not all. The name comes from a woman named Tarpeia, a Roman girl who, according to legend, betrayed the city to the Sabines. She asked for what they wore on their left arms, meaning their golden bracelets. Instead, the Sabines crushed her with their shields. Rome named the rock after her, as a permanent reminder of what happens to those who betray the city. Even prominent Romans were not immune. The historian Cassius Dio records senators calling for political enemies to be thrown from the rock. It was considered a fate for the utterly disgraced. To die at the Tarpeian Rock was to be erased, not just from life, but from Roman honor itself. Perhaps no execution method is more famous or more misunderstood than crucifixion. Here is what the history books often leave out. Rome did not crucify everyone. Crucifixion was specifically reserved for slaves, rebels, pirates, and the lowest classes of criminal, those considered to have no standing in Roman society whatsoever. Roman citizens could not, by law, be crucified. To be crucified was to be declared less than a citizen, less than a free person. It was the ultimate humiliation before death. The process was deliberately prolonged. A condemned man would be flogged first, a punishment called verberatio, using a whip called a flagrum, embedded with shards of bone and metal. Many died from this alone. Those who survived were forced to carry the crossbeam to the execution site, often outside the city walls, deliberately, publicly, visibly. The body was fixed to the cross with nails, typically through the wrists, not the palms, and through the feet. Death came from asphyxiation, dehydration, shock, and exhaustion, sometimes over the course of days. To speed death, soldiers would break the legs. This was called crucifixion. It prevented the condemned from pushing upward to breathe. The most famous mass crucifixion in history, after the slave revolt led by Spartacus in 71 BC, the Roman general Crassus crucified 6,000 slaves along the 200-kilometer Appian Way from Capua to Rome. 6,000 crosses every 30 meters, a wall of the dead stretching the entire length of the road. Rome wanted you to see it. Rome wanted you to never forget it. If crucifixion was humiliating, damnatio ad bestias was spectacular humiliation, designed to entertain an empire. Translated literally, condemnation to the beasts. Criminals, prisoners of war, religious dissidents, thrown into the arena with wild animals, lions, bears, leopards, bulls, and even crocodiles. This was not improvised, it was theater. Sometimes the condemned were given a weapon, a small, dull blade, given purely to extend the show. Some were tied to posts, others were dressed in mythological costumes and made to act out scenes before being killed. A criminal playing Orpheus might be mauled by a bear as the animals refused to obey his music. The crowd would roar. The Emperor Domitian reportedly had disabled people thrown to the animals simply for his own amusement. These events were called munera, or venationes, beast hunts, and they were a core part of Roman public entertainment. The Colosseum, completed in 80 AD, could hold up to 50,000 spectators. Early Christians were among the most famous victims of this practice, though modern historians debate the exact scale of those specific persecutions. But make no mistake, the arena was real, the executions were real, and they were Rome's way of saying, "Defy us, and we will make your death entertainment." Now we come to perhaps the strangest and most disturbing execution in all Roman history, the penna culei, the penalty of the sack. This punishment was reserved for one specific crime, parricide, the murder of one's own father, mother, or close family member. Romans considered this the worst crime imaginable. To murder your own flesh and blood was to attack the very foundation of Roman society, and so the punishment was designed to match that horror. The convicted murderer was first flogged, then dressed in wooden-soled sandals to prevent them from touching Roman soil. Then they were sewn into a large leather sack along with live animals. Which animals? According to the Roman jurist Oppian, a dog, a rooster, a viper, and a monkey. The sack was then thrown into the river, usually the Tiber. The symbolism was completely deliberate. Each animal represented a specific vice: the dog's shamelessness, the rooster's arrogance, the viper's treachery, the monkey's foolishness. The criminal was drowned alongside the very embodiments of their own sins. They could not touch Roman earth in life. They could not rest in Roman earth in death. They simply ceased to exist within Roman society, even in death. The Roman mind considered this not just execution, but spiritual erasure. For certain crimes, particularly arson and crimes against the Roman state, burning alive was the prescribed punishment. The Emperor Nero, himself later accused of burning Rome, used Christians as human torches to light his garden parties after the Great Fire of 64 AD. Whether or not he started the fire, he needed scapegoats, and the punishment served that purpose with devastating efficiency. But fire was not the only method Rome kept in reserve. There was fustarium, being beaten to death by your fellow soldiers, used exclusively for military deserters and cowards. Every member of the unit was required to participate, ensuring collective guilt and absolute loyalty going forward. There was decimation for units that showed cowardice in battle. Every 10th man was selected by lot and beaten to death by the other 9. The Latin root of the word decimate literally means remove 1/10. It was rare, but it was real. There was also exposure. Condemned criminals and dissidents could simply be abandoned, left to the elements, with no food, no water, no shelter. Rome did not always need to get its hands dirty.
And for the highest-ranking traitors of all, the Senate could vote for something even worse than death. Damnatio memoriae, condemnation of memory. Every statue smashed, every inscription chiseled out, every official record destroyed. Worse than death in Roman eyes, non-existence. So who actually held the power of life and death in Rome? It evolved over time. In the early Republic, the pater familias, the male head of a Roman household, held near total authority over his family, including, theoretically, the power of life and death. This was called patria potestas. For public crimes, special courts called quaestiones perpetuae handled cases of murder, treason, and corruption. Under the empire, the emperor himself became the final court of appeal, and sometimes the first. Roman citizens had one crucial protection, the right of appeal, provocatio ad populum in the Republic, and later appellatio to the emperor directly. This is why in the Bible, the Apostle Paul, a Roman citizen, could say the words, "I appeal to Caesar," and be sent all the way to Rome rather than executed locally. But for non-citizens, for slaves, foreigners, and the poor, no such protection existed. A slave could be executed by their owner. A prisoner of war had no rights whatsoever. A foreigner had no legal standing. Roman law was sophisticated. Roman law was brutal. And it was both things at exactly the same time. The Romans built one of the greatest civilizations in human history. They gave us roads, aqueducts, legal systems, architecture, and literature that still shapes the world we live in today. They also gave us the Tarpeian rock, the sack and the river, the arena and the beasts. And perhaps that is the lesson. Civilizations are never purely good or purely evil. Rome was a place of philosophy and public execution, of legal rights and of men sewn into sacks with animals, of breathtaking art and breathtaking cruelty existing side by side in the same city on the same day. The Roman execution was not just a punishment. It was a performance, a statement to the living about the cost of crossing the most powerful empire the ancient world had ever seen. They wanted you scared. They wanted you obedient. And for nearly 1,000 years, it worked.